With the recent Paris attacks, many of my fellow Canadians are commenting how we shouldn't be taking in any more of the Syrian refugees. This isn't new. People have been discussing the refugee crisis since before, but it seems to have reached a fever pitch after the attacks on France. I'm proud that Trudeau, as of this recording, we'll see how he follows through, is dedicated to keeping his commitment of welcoming in so many of those that need us. But there are still those out there who think we should shut down the borders and not be willing to assist any more refugees. A country that won't help even a tiny fraction of those in need is one that I am ashamed to be part of. And that's a hard sentence for me to say, not just because it ended with a preposition. The biggest voices are now bringing up security issues, with many asking how many terrorists will we be letting in who will orchestrate an attack similar to that seen in France. Yes, some kind of screening will be needed, but it's important to remember that these people are the ones trying to get away from the attacks and violence. The deplorable conditions of their homes are the driving factor that motivates them to leave the only life they have known. It's something they're trying to escape from, not recreate. According to many experts, like Nader Atassi, the anti-refugee sentiment is actually helping ISIS. They believe the backlash against Muslims fleeing from Syria will lead refugees to sympathize with ISIS more. This would lead to more recruitment opportunities, and the people who were looking to the West for help and were turned away will now be more likely to think that ISIS's worldview is correct and there's a fundamental difference between themselves and the West. If you want to fight terrorists, it makes sense that hurting their recruitment is one of the best ways to go about it. It may not make a glamorous action movie scenario, but it would be a fairly effective strategy. Canada has had its share of terrorist attacks over the years. Anyone who remembers the October crisis can attest to that. And in the recent past, there have been multiple attempts of attacks on our country by Islamic forces within our borders. The 2006 Ontario and 2013 Via Rail plots spring immediately to mind. But they were thwarted in no little part by members of the Muslim community informing the government as to what was happening. The community was willing to work with the government for the safety of the country. Strengthening those bonds by assisting those who are in need just makes sense on every level. We're privileged to live in the developed world. It's our duty to help others in need. Yes, I know privilege is a dirty word these days, but if we can help the displaced, those who are trying to escape a terrible life, shouldn't we? Yes, we can't help everyone, but we can help some. Our government has the tools and the infrastructure to help many of those in need, so let's put that to use. A lot of people are saying we need to clean up our own messes at home before taking on the problems of the rest of the world. I agree, we do have a problem with the homeless, and the treatment of First Nations people is deplorable. But guess what? Those were problems before, and no one was doing much about them until it became an excuse not to do anything for other people. And while those issues should be looked at, we can do more than one thing at a time. The government is not a laser which can only point to one problem at the expense of all the others. We can work on multiple problems at once. That's why you have ministers for multiple positions, so different problems can be tackled at the same time. The other argument is economic. I've seen the resurgence of the debunked meme regarding how refugees are receiving so much at the expense of regular Canadians, and how retirees should apply for refugee status. But here's the thing. Yes, accepting and integrating refugees into our society will cost us a bit immediately, but it will be offset by the return in a few years. We have tracked the refugees that we have accepted in the past, and the vast majority of them integrated within society and became workers and business owners. In the long run, they didn't cost taxpayers, they became taxpayers. Anyone who knows anything about business knows that an initial investment will be needed to gain a profit later. I don't like religion. That's a given from my earlier videos. So, why do I want to help those with a worldview I disagree with? Because, underneath it all, they are people in need. I will disagree with others on how the world is, but I don't think anybody should be harmed or denied aid simply because of that disagreement.